Hi, everybody. Today's Saturday, July 4th, 2026, and our dear friend Larry Johnson is here with us. Look at this beautiful shirt he put on.
Yeah, broke out one of the
Larry,
4th of July shirts.
Yeah. Beautiful. And happy 4th of July, Larry. And let me start with some sort of communication between the head of Iranian parliament and Donald Trump. Donald Trump recently, he said that Iran is supposed to use money to buy food for their people, because right now their people are very hungry. They're starving. And they're buying it exclusively from the United States: corn, soybean, wheat, and all of that. And here what the head of Iranian parliament yesterday posted, that he says, imagine having 40 something million of your own citizens on food stamps and call another nation hungry. This is not a proclamation. This is a projection. This is the response from the Iranian parliament, because they were criticizing in Iran the Iranian delegations. They say they don't need to negotiate with the United States. What is the main reason to negotiate with the United States? But they're under pressure from inside, not from the people in Iran, I would say, but some political parties within Iran. They're seeing the situation between Iran and the United States. They're criticizing because they have no memory, to be honest, between Iran. No positive memory that would suggest that something good can happen between Iran and the United States. That's why they go that way. But when it comes to Donald Trump, I think, Larry, what has happened as an outcome of this war, and every time that I think about the war and the outcome of the war, my main question is, why does Donald Trump need an agreement, some sort of a treaty or some sort of MOU before leaving the region?
Well, he needed to get the Strait of Hormuz back open, because the United States needs the high sulfur oil that comes out of the Persian Gulf. While it's not a majority of what the United States consumes, it's still there is a demand in the United States for aviation fuel and diesel. The refineries in the United States are set up in such a way that they produce aviation fuel and diesel from high sulfur content oil. So that means they use oil out of Canada and oil out of Mexico and oil out of Venezuela, but it's still not enough to meet the U.S. demand. And he was informed, 4 or 5 weeks ago, that if they didn't get the Strait of Hormuz back open and get that oil flowing, the United States is going to experience a shortage of diesel fuel and aviation fuel, which is going to have a very negative effect on the economy. There will be reduced either tractors that need to, for farmers, won't operate, won't have enough fuel, or the price of diesel and aviation fuel will soar, which means that they have a very big inflationary spike. So that's why he did it. He himself said, we'll be out within 4 weeks. Now, he said oil, and people were thinking he was talking about, the oil that they put in their car. But the United States has no problem with what's called the sweet crude. So it has plenty of that. That's used to make gasoline. But what I've learned, I had assumed that you just a refinery is a refinery. Just it's like a coffee grinder. You put the coffee beans in the grinder and you just set the number. Do I want it a coarse ground or do I want it a fine ground? And just adjust the knob and boom, there you go. And it's not like that at all. It is the actual processes that are used to produce diesel and aviation fuel are different than that to produce gasoline. On top of it, though, when you get the high sulfur, you want to extract the sulfur because the sulfur itself has value in both producing fertilizer and in a number of industrial processes. That's why I wanted the MOU.
How about the nuclear program of Iran, which was the main objective of the Trump administration?
Yeah, that's window dressing. They're not. They're really not. That's not the game changer or the deal killer. That we gotta. That has been the narrative to justify the actions against Iran, because ultimately, for the United States, they wanted to destroy Iran. So the nuclear program is just an excuse to do so.
But for the facade of what's going on, what has happened so far, they need something considering the nuclear program of Iran. They need that. Because if he gets out of it without having a new deal between Iran and the United States, considering the nuclear program, so the whole community in the United States will say, what was that?
Oh, you're being very generous in assuming that people can remember something from one week to the next. I'll call ourselves lithium deprived. We have Alzheimer's. We have no memory. Yes, he'll use a nuclear, I quote, a deal on the nuclear issue as a way to persuade Americans. Hey, I won. Look at this great deal we got. Now, all along, it has been Israel's false accusation that Iran was developing a bomb for 40 years. And from Israel's standpoint, it was just, they could not stand the Islamic Republic and its support for Hezbollah. And again, Hezbollah was not a creature of Iran. Hezbollah was an organic organization that grew out of reaction to Israel's invasion of southern Lebanon. So it is, again, we are constantly bombarded with this narrative that Iran is this fanatical Islamic state that is bent on imposing Sharia law on Christians. That I hear that from people, otherwise sane, rational people, but they've got themselves convinced that the Muslims lie because secretly they're going to force Christians to convert, that kind of thing.
That's so funny.
Well, the one that's being pushed around right now is this. There's reportedly a guy who claims he was a member of the IRGC, and he's now called Christians for Iran, because he says in Iran they do not allow Muslims to convert to Christianity. And someone was trying to make a big deal about that. And I said, well, okay, if that's the case, that's Iran's choice. They're not going outside of Iran, but they're saying within Iran, well, if you're Christian, we'll respect that. If you're Jewish, we'll respect that. But don't come out and proselytize and try to convert. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's like, if it is, so what?
When it comes to these issues that are religious, somehow the government doesn't that much. They don't go after people to find, if they're Christians. If you convert, let's assume you convert, and nobody's gonna ask you, come here and you have to answer my question. You may go, for example, if you want to be part of, let's assume you want to go, you want to work for the government, and then you have a list of the things that you have to declare, that I am Shia, or I'm a Muslim, or I'm Christian. That's part of. Here in Brazil we have. I did all of that here in Brazil. So nobody but's gonna go after him to get him to detain him.
No,
That's ridiculous. The guy is, I don't know who argued that, but it makes no sense to me. And because nobody gonna ask people, what is your religion? What was your previous religion? Did you convert to that doesn't make sense. And the other point, Larry, in the Strait of Hormuz right now is that the United States tried to use the southern part of the Strait of Hormuz. And together, I don't know if the Omani government, what is the cooperation between the United States and the Omani government, but they have been trying to use the southern part, and they use it somehow. And today we've learned that Iran has completely closed the Strait of the U.S. Omani designated maritime corridor, or those routes in the southern part of the strait. Bloomberg reported that at least 8 vessels or ships were forced to return or to turn around or use the alternative, which would be the Iranian routes. So this is what's going on. We know that the U.S. Air Force is in the region and trying to help, the vessels. Do you see any? Go ahead.
Well, how does the Air Force? I had this discussion last night with Suleiman Ahmed, who has a pretty popular X account, and he said, the U.S. Air Force is accompanying these ships. The ships are traveling maximum 12 miles an hour. Airplanes flying at least 150, 200 miles per hour. It doesn't accompany, number one. Number two, is the so-called planes that were accompanying didn't even have what's called close air support capability. So if your goal was to prevent those ships from being attacked, you might have an Apache helicopter flying around it, or you would bring an actual ship into this strait, which the United States has not done because Iran will, blow them out of the water. So this is, this is more theater, and the United States, keeps telling people, "Oh yeah, the strait's wide open, and we're in control," and we're not in control. So I keep monitoring. There are a couple of sites people want to do it for themselves. Vesselfinder.com, I think, is the best, because it shows you the ships, and then you can click on them, and it'll actually bring up a picture and the name. It's pretty interesting. Like, I was just looking at this one. It doesn't appear to be. It's called a chemical oil products tanker. So it is sailing. Its destination, it says, is AEDXB. I have no idea what that is.
Larry, Benjamin Netanyahu going to meet with Donald Trump. Today we've learned Ben-Gvir again, he canceled his visit to the United States. He wanted to go to New York, and we know what is the atmosphere in New York, and the people are gonna go out against him and against what's going on in Gaza, in the West Bank, and you see the reason that he has canceled his visit. But I don't know what Benjamin Netanyahu what is the main objective of Benjamin Netanyahu and the new meeting with Donald Trump. How do you understand that?
Well, they did announce today that he's canceling the visit.
Benjamin Netanyahu, no, he's going to go to the United States, but Ben-Gvir has canceled his visit to the United States because he's not that important. I think what's important is the meeting between Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah. Do we know what date?
Not yet. We don't know.
Yeah. So Netanyahu's going to come, and they're going to have, we'll probably have all the great photo ops and the pledges again of support for Israel, et cetera, et cetera. This is, but it's not right now. That's not going to change the fact that the United States is withdrawing its forces. I learned last night, was it, I can't remember, it was either Mario or Suleiman. I guess Mario reported that the B-52s that were stationed at Farnsworth in Britain, they have now left and come back to the United States. And after they left, a group of F-15s that had been based at Jordan flew into the UK en route back to the United States. So there is a drawdown of U.S. military force that had been deployed into the region. That's coming back. So Netanyahu, I'm sure would try to press Trump for, some sort of military commitment. And I don't know if Trump will be able to give it.
what sort of commitment is that going to? Does he really want to go after Iran again? And
yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, they want to go after Iran again. Yeah.
So the outcome. What sort of outcome is he seeking for?
Well, he's going to try. I was presuming he's going to try to talk Trump into another attack on Iran. Because they're and try to get Trump's support, continued support for maintaining Israeli operations in southern Lebanon. Now, also, there are issues with respect to Gaza. Apparently, Trump he's backed away from the demand that Hamas be disarmed. So,
because there is no way to disarm Hamas. If that was possible, Israelis would have done that before.
Well, it's possible, but at a tremendous cost. It'd be a very bloody fight. It would probably devolve into hand-to-hand combat, and Israel doesn't want to do that. They're trying to minimize their casualties. They don't care how many casualties they inflict on the Palestinians, but they want to minimize their own.
You mean Israelis going in Gaza? Because we know that they were not able to go deep because of the ambushes in Gaza. And
right. But I mean, I'm just saying, you can do it, but recognize you're going to be ambushed. You're going to have casualties. You're going to get a lot of people killed and wounded. And Israel, despite all their tough talk, they don't want to incur that risk. So that's why you've had Hamas able to hold them off.
They really feel that they can annex the West Bank, and
well, they have been, yeah, absolutely.
Last time we hear Donald Trump say the no annexation of the West Bank. Do you think he's going to stay? The way that he is going to stay in the same position, no annexation of the West Bank, or he's going to change his position on the West Bank?
Well, he's not going to force the Israelis to give up their settlements in the West Bank. That's, I think that's pretty certain. It doesn't matter what he says. It's like, what is he willing to do? Is he willing to cut off aid to Israel and say, no, you're going to have to get out of the West Bank, or, we're done. There's no more aid. I don't see him doing that. That would be the ideal thing to do, but he won't do that. So we're going to see, I think you'll see the continued encroachment of Israel into the West Bank and to attempt to drive the Palestinians out.
I think,
which includes Palestinian Christians.
I see many ways that even Europeans can come out with some sort of legal argument against Israel, because nobody's happy about what Israel is doing in Palestine, to be honest.
Correct.
And how legally do you think that, is there any legal process to avoid that?
No, this is not, the only thing that Israel will understand is if it is completely isolated. So like right now in the UK, there's a group of parliamentarians from both the Tory party and the Labour Party that are working together to impose more sanctions on Israel. But it's still a minority number. It's only like 75. So as long as the countries of the West continue to look the other way and not enforce sanctions on Israel, Israel will continue to do what it's doing.
Larry, the new reports, it shows that it seems that Iran and the United States are going to meet again on July 11th in Pakistan to talk. And the new round of talks, it seems that they're going to talk about the Iranian frozen assets and the sanctions on Iran, basically primary and secondary sanctions, IAEA, UN Security Council. These are going to be the next steps of the negotiations.
Mm-hmm.
so far, what we've learned from the Iranian nuclear program, they have 2 sites in Iran. One of them is in Tehran. They say research reactor in Tehran, which was IAEA can go there, and inspectors can go there and verify. And in Bushehr, which is a cooperation between Iranians and Russians, they can go there. But other sites in Iran are not open for the inspectors of IAEA. So let's assume the time by July 11th. And do you see so far with what we've seen from those important points in MOU, are they advancing? Are they somehow moving forward?
Oh, no, I think there's zero progress at all. So, it was signed on June 17th, 60 days that Iran will allow ships to pass without paying tolls. And then on day 61, they're going to force tolls. There are so many different issues. And the biggest issue is Lebanon. The United States is supposed to force Israel out of Lebanon. Instead, it's cutting the deal to let Lebanon allow Israel to stay in southern Lebanon and to occupy territory, and also to use it as an excuse to, find ways to bring, Syria in to maybe attack Hezbollah. So, I think for all practical purposes, the MOU is dead. The United States is not going to free up the assets, the frozen assets. It's not going to take major strides forward to get rid of all the sanctions that the UN and others proposed. The only thing they're allowing right now is the oil to flow out because the West needs the oil. Now, the United States isn't getting any of this oil. That's what's fascinating. When you look at the ships that are coming out, there's a crude oil tanker like now called the Long Wind. It's headed to Fujairah. So it came out of the Persian Gulf, and it came out through the Iranian route. You've got another tanker out there I'm just looking at that's headed to India, Mumbai. So none of these tankers are going to the United States.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting is the United States needs those tankers, but not getting it. So it's I'm just sitting here, yeah. So a lot of these tankers that are coming out, they're going to Fujairah, and then where they go, maybe from Fujairah they're going to go on to, say, the United States, but from Fujairah to one of the oil terminals where the refineries are in southern United States, that's a 42-day trip. So you're not going to see anything like immediate relief for the United States. There's going to be at least a month of severe disruption.
I think that's one of the main reasons for many people arguing that there is no way for the United States to get back to the fight again.
Well, yeah, I mean, for right now, yes, that's, and again, I look at it in terms of, do we see for a military action to take place? That means there was a planning and operations cell, an actual bureaucratic entity, and these are called for this latest, for the attacks on the 28th of February. Those were handled by what are called CATs, C-A-T, Crisis Action Teams. Those stood up and started operating a week before that attack on the 28th of February, at least a week. And they've now been taken down. They're now operating 8 to 5, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, bankers' hours. And so the fact that you don't have that planning cell that's up and operating 24/7 tells you that there are no significant military operations being planned or on the verge of being carried out. So you have to look at things like that to understand, is the United States going to go back to war? If they decide, okay, we need to re-engage, then that cell's got to stand up, and then you got to start deploying air assets and other support equipment and personnel to the region. Right now, they're withdrawing all of them, so that mitigates against any kind of major flare-up over at least the next 2 to 3 months. And frankly, I don't see Trump wanting to, light off a new level of war with Iran, a month or two before the elections, the midterm elections in November.
Yeah. The Marco Rubio and his people tried to put a lot of pressure on